So one big talking points moving forward in the offseason is going to be Tua and his future with the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people feel like this was kind of the end of the road for him after 2025, a shaky start for, shaky season, I should say, for not just for him, but the whole season in general. And you see what's happened. There's a change in the head coach, change of the GM, and you feel like now following suit, the dominoes falling, that it is going to be the quarterback as well moving forward, moving off of him as well. Now, with that, there certainly is a big hurdle to do that. It certainly is possible for the Dolphins want to do it, but certainly taking a huge, biting the bullet per se, taking a huge plunge, moving off of Tua with the contract and how much it's going to cost in terms of the dead cap. And we'll go over there right now quickly with this one. If the Miami Dolphins decide to move off of Tua this offseason, is almost a $100 million hit, $99.2 million to be exact, and it certainly is a huge commitment. And now, again, of course, you have a whole new regime. They're not loyal to Tua. But in terms of the financial side, is this something they want to do and kind of screw themselves over for the next few years, or how long they can, how long they can spread out the cap or that cap throughout the seasons? Next year, next offseason in 2027, you have a potential out where that dead cap drops dramatically from 99.2 to 34.8. That certainly seems plausible for them if they want to try and give Tua one more opportunity in a different system and see how he plays. And then if they don't like him, certainly you cut the dead cap a lot lower to 34.8, which is certainly manageable at that point. If you want to eat that all in one season, or you want to spread it, again, if they have the option to spread it out, you certainly can do so here. But 2026 is certainly a big plunge to do so with that. But it all really depends on, really two things of, are you truly sick of Tua and you have another option to go towards? And you can still look at this as, you know what, they don't care. They'll take the plunge. They'll be a bad team in 2026 and get to the 2027 draft with higher draft capital or something higher draft value in their picks and potentially get a franchise quarterback in that one. So that is the case. It's not a horrible decision. I know you're basically throwing away the season, but it's not. There's not that many high expectations for 2026 as of right now, especially how the offense looks when you get rid of Tyreek Hill. You look at they got rid of Bradley Chubb as well. Have made some tough decisions. They traded Phillips at the trade deadline as well. And there's really not a lot going on in the offense. Yes, you have A-Chain, who's a really good running back. You still have Jalen Waddle, who is one of the best young wide receivers in the league. But there's still a lot of up in the air stuff about him, where he was almost traded at the deadline, and there's still that kind of talking points even right now in this offseason. So there's a chance that Tua might be without his top two receivers, and is that enough with just A-Chain? When you have no receivers as of right now, the offensive line is shaky at best. It's okay if you want to put it as. That's not something that Tua really thrives in. He is something that a quarterback that needs a lot of pieces around them to work, and some of what you saw a few years ago back in 2022, 21, I think it's 22, 23, the years that he really excelled in, where he had two great wide receivers, he had a great running game, he had a solid offensive line. I don't think it was ever great during his tenure. You had some playmakers on defense. He's a quarterback that needs the pieces around him. He's not someone that can carry a team. He does not have the physical trait to do that. He's a smaller quarterback. Arm is not the best. Certainly a lot of injury history with him, especially with a concussion standpoint. Is that something that moving forward they want? No. Even if he stays here, there's no question they are going to cut him in 2027 unless he has a spectacular season in 26 and he could play the full season and play well with what talent he has around him. I do think that, inevitably, if it's not this year, it's going to be next year as well, next offseason, I should say, for Miami getting rid of him. But again, it really should show you, if they get rid of him with this dead cap, how much they really feel about him. Like, they're sick of it. They're done. They're sick of the inconsistencies, the injuries, and so forth. We just want to completely wipe our hands clean from the Mike McDaniels Greer era, and we want to start a completely different, new start for this franchise too. So again, it really comes down how desperate do you want to get off rid of Tua? Because that'd be a huge statement to say that, taking off, certainly an all-time high, I think it is, or something up there at $99.2 million. I think Russell Wilson was around the 80s for that one, and now you have this one got be almost $100 million in dead cap. It just, in terms of a financial standpoint, even if you don't like Tua, it does not make any sense to do so. You'd rather just, play it out for another year, see how he does with a new regime, and then cut him next offseason. So we'll see how it plays out with that. But also, too, if you want, advance with that process of getting rid of him, who's the next person in charge for at the quarterback spot? And as right now, I'll try real quickly break down the stats for Tua. He's only completed one season of playing a full year. You look at rookie year, I know he was benched and so forth for between him and Fitzpatrick. So give you a little, a pass for that one, but 13 games in 21, 13 games in 22, 11 games in 24, 14 games in 25. This is a guy who cannot consistently stay on the field, which is when you pay the top quarterback that much money, or the quarterback that top dollar, I should say, that yes, it's a big problem. And this is certainly a tough situation where you say, damn if you do, damn if you don't. If you don't sign him, you have no one else, and those guys probably that regime gets fired quicker. But then you sign him, then you're stuck to the injuries if he gets out. Then you have to wait weeks, if whatever, a month or so for his concussions or whatever injuries he accumulates, as well as an inconsistent play at times. So you have that as well. But then getting back to the roster for the Miami Dolphins here and showing you what they have on the depth chart as of right now. So you see, it is pretty bare. You have Zach Wilson, which I don't know if they're going to even bring back. You have Cam Miller, and some people kind of throw out there Quinn Ewers, so rookie they drafted late in the draft the past draft. Had played the last few games of the season, with of course Tua being partially injured, but also Tua just benching him in a way. So you have Quinn Ewers. If you want to throw in Zach Wilson, is there other people out there? If you want to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, I've seen some rumors of. Is this someone where, dare I say, you want to switch a problem for a problem? And Kyler Murray, I'm sure the financial point doesn't really make too sense with that, but I'm just kind of throwing some names out there of who could potentially be a replacement for Tua. But again, if this is a season where you're kind of throwing it away a little bit, you're no doubt a full rebuild, obviously, and you want to start from the ground up and get your franchise quarterback next year, it makes sense to kind of punt this year and have someone like Quinn Ewers and see what he can do, because certainly he was someone that was a little bit touted before coming out of the draft, where he thought, the last couple of years, where he thought, I've seen some mock drafts where he was, a first round pick at times early on, in the college season. And obviously, as that played out, you saw how far he fell with that. Certainly a solid college quarterback for Texas and made some good plays here, at times for that program. So maybe there could be a dime in the rough for Quinn Ewers if you give him another season, off season under his belt, another season in the league with some of these guys on the roster here. At least for, again, right now, A-Chain and Jalen Waddle. We don't know the status yet of Waddle's future, but as right now with those guys, as well as whoever's going to be back on the offensive line and so forth. So maybe a new regime for Quinn Ewers could be better, and maybe he can surprise a lot of people this season if they want to give the reins to him. Or again, Zach Wilson, if you want to have your next cool Sam Darnold type of quarterback, you're trying to find a next guy who can really take a big jump. Maybe Zach Wilson gets another opportunity. But again, I doubt they'll bring him back at this point here, or whoever. Again, Jimmy Garoppolo, or insert other side quarterback, Anthony Richardson, if you want to take a flyer on him and try and trade from, who knows at this point here for that. But for myself, I don't see a release, and I don't really see a trade, because I just don't see trade offers of teams willing to take on Tua. I just read an article moments ago before recording that was the typical culprits: Cardinals, Vikings. What else was it? It was Colts and Falcons. Sorry, Colts and Falcons was the other two. I don't really see those teams making a move there. I mean, Vikings, Josh, I don't like J.J. McCarthy at all. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think they're making that plunge to get Tua. I think it's at very best, it's a lateral move. Yes, Tua is better than McCarthy, but again, with the kind of the limitations he has physically and also the injuries, I think it evens out really to that one, and you're just kind of just throwing more money out there for a quarterback that's not worth it. You look at the Cardinals, again, I kind of threw out there too with Kyler Murray, if you want to take that, so you have some of the injury aspect to it as well. You're getting a shorter quarterback, has a better arm in Tua, but again, and also too, kind of attitude and the mental makeup, you kind of question as well. Does that make sense? I don't know at that point there as well. Colts, you have Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. How do you feel about that? I'm sure maybe they want to try and bring back Daniel Jones as well. And then for the Falcons, that does seem a little bit more intriguing, because of them, getting rid of, or potentially are going to be getting rid of Kirk Cousins, and you don't know the future of Michael Penix with Stefanski there. Maybe that's someone that is a good situation. Like I said, a guy that needs to have good piece around them. You have Kyle Pitts, you have Drake London, you have Bijan Robinson, you have a good offensive line, certainly better than what he had in Miami. So you look at that and go, maybe it's a better situation for him. So a defense with promising players on there as well. So maybe that is the most likely destination if I had to pick out of the four. But even then, I don't know if it's a good spot there too. Again, if you want to throw the money out there for, like I said, for Tua with the limitations, the injuries, and so forth, I don't know about that. But again, overall, my prediction is going to be that he stays. again, for the financial standpoint, I understand if for fans and anyone out there that they are done with Tua, they want to move off from, the sick of him. I completely understand that. I completely understand that. Again, I don't. He was not worth the contract. I did not like the contract they gave him when he first signed it, and he's showing you the reason why. Got limitations, injuries, like I keep saying over and over again. But when you're taking almost $100 million in dead cap, you got to bite that. You got to swallow your pride and say, you know what, we're going to deal with it for one more season. Let's see how it plays out, and then again, it drops dramatically in 2027, $34.8 million. That is more than reasonable to wipe your hands and walk away instantly. $99 million is too much. Too much to wreck this new regime going forward and dealing with the limitations around that and trying to play with the cap around that to a number. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, it doesn't. I get if you're truly frustrated with it, and certainly it speaks volumes if it does happen because of the huge cap or dead cap you're going to be taking on with this. I view this Miami as, especially for Dolphins fans, you're going to see Tua for one more season, see how it plays out, and then more than likely move off of him and release him. I doubt even at that point you would trade him, but release him and then whoever you want to go draft, bring someone else in, try and trade for a quarterback. But Tua is going to be playing in 2026. I'd be absolutely shocked with this dead cap amount here you see on the screen that they would take that on and play with it. Well, again, if it's however many years they have to spread it out for this, but it's to me, it's financial standpoint, it's idiotic to do this move. So I think Tua's gonna be staying in 2026 with whatever roster he has around him, whatever offensive pieces he has around him. We'll play it out here. I'm sure they'll have at best an okay season for this one. Not high expectations for Tua in this Dolphins team, and then move off from the 2027 one. Again, when you have a $34.8 million dead cap out.